Tennessee. Mrs. Lorena Liggett Stuart, my aunt, the sister of my mother, Lee Ira Liggett Jones, and the daughter of my grandparents, Andy and Hattie Liggett. 27th. July 27th, 1981, Nashville, Tennessee. Mrs. Stewart will be giving some family history. Is that too far back? Okay, would you share with us some of the things that you know about their young lives when they were growing up, my grandmother and grandfather, Andy and Hattie Liggett? Yes. Either one closest, whatever you remember about their young lives when they were growing up. Take grandmother first or Andy? Okay.
Her mother died when she was 14 years old. And she'd been sick a long time. She was so she asked them to let her go to the door and see the flowers one more time. And they did, and she died short. And way back in those days, colored people, Negroes didn't have anything. And when my mother died, a couple from Virginia. They were old slaves from Virginia. And they took my mother. I don't know who took her brother and her sister. But this couple was named Kitty Shepherd and Stephen Shepherd. And they raised my mother. And let me see now where I go from it.
Was this still in Virginia? Was it still in Virginia where they were raising your mother?
No, I don't know how they got this far from Virginia, but they were brought over on a boat to Virginia. You know, that's where they were put off in Virginia. I don't know how they worked their way out in the country. Mm-hmm. Now see, where did I stop?
I interrupted you. You said they were in Virginia, and then somehow I guess they got to Tennessee.
That's right. Yeah, I got to Tennessee. And when my grandmother passed, wait now, let me get myself together.
Just take your time.
And when my mother's mother passed, she wanted to go to the door to see the flowers. And she did, and she died shortly. And that's when these old people from Virginia took her. And I don't know who took her brother and her sister. But when they got old and Mama had a family, they had to take them. Now tell me where you want to start.
Okay, just go right ahead.
Right ahead.
As you remember.
As you remember, that's
any way you want to do it, it's fine. That's
the
right
way. Are you
way.
getting it now?
Yes.
Well, this old man, he would go to the hack and get his whiskey once a month. And so one time he went, and these white boys threw him down and took his whiskey away from him. And he had what they call an old cedar chest, and 100 pounds of sugar on one side, and a gallon of whiskey on the other. And after they did that, he would put in Papa's feed for him, so Papa could go get his whiskey. And so Mom and them, I think, just had one big room, or maybe one big room and a kitchen. And there was about 4 of us children then. And he had this red high trundle bed, old bed, and they had a little bed, they called it trundle bed. And my brother and myself, we slept under that. They would pull this bed out and then slip us back on Uncle's bed. That's what we call him, and that's what they call him, Uncle and that. And I can see him right now with his long nightgown on. It was made just like the shirts on now, only it came down to his feet, and he wore a nightcap. Mm-hmm. And they had what they call a chamber. Red, and it looked like a cup, red, big, round. And my mother would make my oldest brother take the chamber out for him. And my brother threw it down and broke it.
Was that ever your job at any time?
No, it was. I never did know that I don't remember his aunt. That's what we call her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was dead when they brought Uncle to us, I reckon, because I wasn't even born. So he threw this chamber down and broke it, and you know what he got? Now let's see, from there, let me see. Anyway, he passed. They had to take him, you know, and he passed. Now let me see what I wrote from there. Well, I guess I'll go on to Papa's
Fine. Very good.
Papa's side as much as I know about that. And I didn't know anything about it until my niece, my cousin told me. And there was a big family of them girls, and just the two boys, my papa and his brother. And he was taken away when he was 2 years old. And after my father was grown, and about all 8 of us were born. And he was a farmer, a blacksmith, and a bootleg veterinarian.
Was this in Tennessee or Virginia?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
And all of this happened in Tennessee. And so Papa would go to Columbia, Tennessee every first Monday to carry his stock. He raised tobacco, and he'd kill that, and he'd take it there and sell it. And so one day he was talking to a man, and told this man that he had a brother, but he hadn't seen him since he was 2 years old. And this man told him, said, well, I know where there's a man that looks very much like you. So my papa insisted on him taking him to this place. So my papa had his mules there. It was Mule Day. They always had Mule Day in Columbia. You remember?
Oh, yes, very definitely.
And so he got another man to hold these mules while this man took him in the buggy and carried him across the river to this white man's house. And when they got there, they knew they were brothers. And my father had been looking for him in the name of Liggett, but when these white folks took him, he took that's where he got the name of Hardison. And my father brought him home, and he waked up, called Mama, waked her up, and we all came downstairs, and we were hugging him and kissing him, and my oldest sister ran in the kitchen and says, we just kissing that man, we don't know whether he's our uncle or not. And so he went back where he was living with these white folks, but his health got bad, and he came to Nashville. And so Papa's sister took him in, so he died here.
What was his first name? You said his last name was Hardison. Do you remember his first name?
Oh, yes, Albert.
Albert Hardison.
And Papa was looking for him by Albert Liggett. And you see, he was going by these white people's names. And
What were some of the features that he had that your father, were
yes,
they both?
he had coal black hair, and he came down in a part, and he was about your color. My father was real light. And so my father, he was raised by the Smiths, and he went to school one day, and he and a boy got in a fight, and he hit him with a bat, and he never did go back to school, and the white people didn't send him back. And he worked and stayed there until he was 21, and when they left, they gave him a bridle, a saddle, and a mule. And he had a great big box, wooden box, with a lock on it. That was his trunk. And so he met Mama, and they married. And when we brought my Mama to my sister's, she still had his wedding glove, one of them, and she lost hers the day they got married. And
Let's go back just a little bit. Now, don't suppose Grandpapa Andy and his brother either knew their mothers very well, or was this white family the original mother of the family of the son that they
yes,
took?
they knew their mother.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they knew.
But you were saying that Andrew was raised by someone else.
Uh-huh.
Now, was this his mother that?
No, the white people took him when he, that's the ones that gave him the bridle and saddle and mule. He worked till he was 21. And that's what they gave him. Turned him loose with a mule. I think it was a mule.
Okay, now,
Saddle and a bridle.
baby, I missed part of it. Why was he split from your father? Because of death in the family and they took the boys apart, or they just somehow, how did they get split from beginning?
Yes, that's how the brothers got split when the mother died.
Oh, I see. Okay.
When the mother died. And see, colored people and black people didn't have anything then. And it was a big family of them. Let's see. He had a sister named Alice, one named Ida, one named Georgia, one named Mary. I believe those are all. But he only had this one brother. And this sister Georgia, she never did marry. Oh, she was fine looking. And they had hair down to here, just like real white folks had. And so, and Ida took her. And I remember coming down here when she had her. And these white people, they knew she wasn't going to get well. She had cancer. And these white people, they came and bought her clothes before she died to be buried in. And they'd Ida let them come around the house in the kitchen so they couldn't see her. And she never did get married. But this sister Mary, she married a boy. And this sister Alice, she married her daughter. And that's her son that's out here in Mahara and down Stuart. He'll finish next year. And I had all those pictures. Wilma had them, and she just took them here not long ago. And so this brother of Mama's, he married Della.
I've heard that name, but I
found a lot of pictures after y'all left. I found it. I didn't find yours.
Oh, really?
I just
Mine's
these
mighty far
pictures.
that
I've
way.
got that little trunk full. And so let me see now what I can think. Uncle Albert died, and they buried him. And they had a horse. Uncle Major, he'd pick up garbage. Aunt Ida, she washed and ironed, and that's how they bought this home. And they had a horse, and this horse Uncle Major had, Aunt Ida's husband, he drove, picked up garbage. And I came down here and went on the wagon with him, picking up garbage. And they named this horse Albert, after Aunt Ida's brother.
Suppose that's where Willie Albert got his name from?
That's where he got his name. From Uncle Albert. Let me see anything else. Oh, yeah. Aunt Ida died. Oh, yeah. And Uncle Major, you want this too? You want everything?
Yes, I was trying to think of, I don't quite remember the relationship that we were talking about with this little girl when she reached puberty, that they had to hide at a certain place in the log cabin. I don't know what relation was that.
Mama's
How did-
cousin. All right, I'll go back to that then.
Okay.
Then Mama had a cousin, and they got separated for years. They didn't know. First she came to Nashville, and she was staying with some people out here at Triune, Arizona 1. And when she got up about 15 years old, she stayed in the house with them, and they had some boys. And
Was this a black or white family?
white,
White family, okay.
and still white. I don't know who her parents was. I don't remember. See, Mama didn't tell us this. Mama told me that, but my cousin told me back then. And so they put out on a log cabin, just had a shutter, no windows. And these white boys would try to get in her room at night. And she would have stayed down and had white children like Grandma and them did if she hadn't got away. And she left at night, rolled up what she could take at night under her arm, and she left. And she walked at night and hide in the daytime.
Excuse me, do you think she was about 16 or 17 at this time, or a little bit older? Or do you
No, I don't
have
think
any
she
idea?
was any older. She was about 15.
15. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh. And she left. And she walked from there to Nashville. And she worked here in Nashville a while, and then she worked her way, where did I tell you she?
Detroit, I believe.
Yeah, I
Is it
believe
Yeah,
it's
you did
Detroit.
say Detroit.
Detroit or Chicago one. It's Detroit or Chicago one. And years later, she came to Nashville, and through my papa's sister, she found out where Mama was. And see, ain't I couldn't read and write. Uncle Major could. And so she found out about Mama. Then she wrote Mama a letter, and she went back to Chicago or Detroit, wherever it was. And then the next year, she sent Mama money to come there. And then Mama came home. They kept in touch, and she sent a big box of things for all the children, gift for all the children. I had the Baby Ray Edwards plate, and Edwards still called that his Baby Ray plate. And you know, when he started the at school, he was reading, "I see Baby Ray, Baby
Oh,
Ray
my
see
goodness.
me." And honey, he was had memorized it, and they made him go back. My older sister Jenny was teaching school. They made him go back, and he didn't know a word of it. It was a baby plate.
And this is the plate that you're talking about,
And
right?
he was 60 years old.
And you
And
had
you know,
that long.
I like to keep old things, and these children get after me, and I'm going to show you some old stuff I got.
Well,
out
this
there.
is absolutely priceless here. Look how heavy it is.
That's,
Dave.
I wouldn't give it to Edward with his children because I know it, but you can't break it. It's falling on the floor. I mean, you can pull pennies out if you want to.
No, just looking at the little design in here, the little cats are
Well,
sitting there.
heavy it is.
Right, and
And
it's
that's-
very well made too.
Edward she sent that, and Edward was 60 years old in first day of June. Now that plate is that old. And Kate brought up Mama's rocking chair. You know, Papa was a smart man. In the fall, he go to the woods and get hickory bark and dress them and put them in water and bottom the chairs. And you know, we get across the chairs and rock them, you know.
I bet you they'd last quite a long time, too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because hickory wood it's hard, but it won't break very easy.
This was the bark, you know. He'd skin the trees. And Mama's rocking chair, it was uncles and aunts. That's what we call them. And Mama had it. She brought it down here, and Kate wouldn't let her bring all those. She told her she couldn't bring all that junk. She told her she don't bring the rocking chair. And that was Uncle's rocking chair. And Papa bought him that. And about 3 years ago, I asked Kate about that chair. I broke that thing up and brought it up around the wash pit.
Oh gosh.
You don't know. And when y'all gonna leave?
The 30th, Thursday. Thursday, right.
Up here at this new thing they built, everything they have up there, I've seen it because these old people had it and Mama
Is
had
that
it.
how you lived with it, huh?
And Papa moving about, he'd leave a piece here now when John Burns moved him from down at Spring Hill to Marshall County. And they had the reel, the spinning wheel, the cards, and Uncle had that old black hat the soldiers wore that when they folded it up like a fan like that in the old me. He had some pretty things. We children broke them and had more dimes, and we children would slip them out in a shell box. If Mama and Papa had that, now they'd have $1,000 of money. But in moving about in little places. And where did I go from there? And it was very
That's the Baby Ray.
Mm-hmm. And when he started school, that was what they had in the promo, first reader. I see Baby Ray, see me. Yeah, he wasn't reading a thing. It just had it memorized.
Right.
And, and I taught Papa when I went to school. I taught Papa his ABCs and how to spell his name. And that's all the education he had. Mama could read and write. She had gone to school.
Where did you go to school? In Giles County or Murray County?
Me?
Yes.
No, it wasn't that. It was Murray County and Williamson County. And see, Lee Iowa, your mama, and Jenny, they taught. And Sam, Mama, Lee Iowa taught at Chapel Hill. no, Hopper, place named West Hopper first. And Sam went to school to her, and he didn't think he had the mind. And he did something, and she had to punish him, and he went, that week had a lunch in a split basket. And she went to punish him, and he threw his pie and hit her all up here on the waist. And Leila and Sister Jenny went to Old Walden out here in South Nashville.
Is that right?
And and at that time, one girl couldn't dress no nicer than the other one. They had to wear shirt, waist dresses, and black skirts. Your mama and my mom and my sister. And when Sam went to school to Lee Alva, they did something. She was gonna whip him. He threw his pie all up there. He got a whipping there, and he got a whipping when he got home.
Yes, that was quite common to do that.
And
do you remember what grades my mother taught? If it was the first grade, it was first grade through 8, 4 or 5 grades.
it went to the 6th grade or 7th.
And you mentioned something about the lunches. Do you remember something else that you would take in your lunch to school?
Yes.
Those days?
Honey, we'd take molasses and a little jar with butter in there. And these children of today don't know anything. We'd take molasses and take our school. Mom would make muffins, you know, and put butter on them. We'd take our molasses, our biscuit, molasses, your mama too. I'm not ashamed to tell it. I love to tell it, how we came up. And how far we've come, you know, since then. And my sister Jenny, the first school she taught was at Rural Hill.
I've heard that name before.
And so, let's see what happened when I went to school with her. Oh, this man died here just not long ago. 3 Sundays ago, I went to his funeral. And I knew him when I went to school with Sister Jenny. And he worked at Liggett's, and I had an account there, and I worked up there 17 years, and when Liggett's went, Harvest took it. And he worked there, and I saw him, I guess, every day and didn't know him. And when he died, and I saw it in the paper. So I went to that funeral. And I didn't know anybody except he and his sister. I didn't know all the other family. And all of Harvest was there. They had just one full seat of Harvest. And to think that I was right there and saw him every day, and I hadn't saw him since I was about 8 years old, and I went to school, he went to school to my sister Jenny. And let me see what else can I remember.
And you, all the time you worked, you never made acquaintance, or he never recognized you either.
Well, see, I had been married and had all these 5 children, and oh, you ought to heard the sweet things they said about his wife. And he married a young girl in Lewisburg, and everybody thinks her mother and I are sisters. And all the time that I was single, and his first wife died, and he married this girl, and I didn't know him, you know. It seemed since I was about 8 years old, and I was going to school to my sister. And
well, this is very interesting because I sort of had in my mind that the family just sort of stayed around in Lewisburg. I didn't realize that they were extended, you know, around Spring Hill and Rural Hill, and this type of thing, until probably after my mother married my father.
That's right.
And I thought she was the only one that was down this area.
No.
Like that. I just thought the family was sort of centralized.
We left from Spring Hill around there. Duplex.
Right.
We heard of that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've been to church today, and that's where we used to go to church.
And they told that church down there is Church
I
of
would
Christ
imagine
or
so.
something.
I would imagine so.
And John Burns, he moved us. And I remember Mama said, Dan, can't you make room for this? I can't take all this stuff. And there was 2 wagons moved us from Spring Hill, Rural Hill. See, that's where Mama and Papa belonged to church.
I didn't know that. I thought they all lived in Lewisburg, and I thought my mother and father were the only one, you know, in the family at Spring Hill.
They were born out there. And they were born at this place. They were born when Mama and them had aunt and uncle, my oldest. And Mama had a brother, son named Roy. And he died down here at the Centennial. Mama looked down and he was so sick. And they started home, and he died in her arms. And that brother was named Roy. And that's where this Roy came, his name, and it had bound in somebody else in Mama's family, Papa one named Roy.
I see.
Because Mama had a son, her oldest child was named Roy. And this boy is his people's oldest child from California. His name's Roy.
Now there were 10 of you, right?
10.
Do you remember all the names, or
Mm-hmm.
could you give them to us?
Roy, the oldest, Jenny Nates, Leapa Nates, Dave Nates, myself, Lorena, Sam, Major, Kate, a little girl named Hattie. She died when she was 4 years old.
Is that who Hadley's named after? Possibly.
She's living there for Mama. Mama's named Hattie.
Hattie, okay. So Hadley is about the third Hattie in the family, right? Uh-huh.
No, Hattie is the second Hattie. Mama's name was Hattie. Hattie's name Hattie. Now, where did I stop at?
I shouldn't have
Okay,
been.
yeah, with
Naming my
Hattie.
sisters.
Hattie, and then
said the one that died when she was quite young. That's where he stopped. There's just one more to go.
Wait, I made a mistake calling her name. I called her Hattie. Her name was Maddie.
oh, okay,
Right.
okay. But this is why I was saying there was 3 Hatties.
No,
No, we're
her-
together now.
My little sister was named Hattie. Did I call Kate before I called her?
Yes,
Yes,
she called
called
Kate.
Kate. There's
Kate
one
was
more.
Nate's. Hattie was Nate's. And I had a brother named Albert, little brother named Albert.
So that's 10 of them.
Uh-huh. And we called him, what did we call him? But see, he was named after Papa's brother, Albert.
Now, I vaguely remember going to visit grandmother somewhere, and they lived on a highway and had an upstairs. Do you remember where?
Was that Lewisburg?
I think it must have been Lewisburg. It was a 2-story house, and as I said, had an upstairs, and it was right on the highway.
Well, now, in Chapel Hill, when we lived in Chapel Hill,
Could have been Chapel
Mama
Hill.
lived in a big 2-story house that used to be the white house, and Papa tended that farm. You want to get all this?
Sure. As I said, I don't remember. I remember going to visit her, and
Well-
Hadley was a little girl then, and we would sleep upstairs. And it was right, I think we went on the Greyhound
No, that
bus.
must have been in Lewisburg. Because see, after Kate's husband died, Mama had to raise Hadley and Robert.
Well, I remember Hadley living with her at that time.
Yeah, well, we had already lived at this place. That's where Kate ran off and married.
Oh, I see.
And Dave had brought her a blue satin hat with a great big rose on it. And see, Kate, my husband's brother. You never knew that?
I knew they were both Morrises, but I didn't realize they were
Brothers.
brothers. I probably would have forgotten about it.
Just forgotten.
Uh-huh.
Because heap of this stuff I get mixed up on, I forget, but if I can think of it. And and Mama never lived in the white folks' house then. It was a big frame house. But now, if you went where Hadley lived, that was after they lived on this white man's farm. And he was a wealthy white man because he was riding his horse and he had a little paddle. And he stopped pedaling the horse, you know, and wrote a check on this paddle and gave it to the man, carried it to the bank. And you may not want to get all this, but
Oh,
I'm gonna
fine, go right ahead.
and while we lived there, that's where Kate ran off and married, slipped off and married. And Mama and them got in the wind, they were going by her. And she locked up her clothes, and Dave had brought her a blue hat with a big rose on it. And she didn't get the hat, and Dave put that hat on, wore it to the field. Wore it out.
Do you remember when my parents got married and where and
Yes,
anything
so
about
let me
that? Tell
think.
us something about that.
She was going with Hobart Burns. Uncle John Burns moved us from Spring Hill, and the Burnses was big Negroes then. And she was going with Hobart. And then he was going to marry Rosa McLean, and his daddy said, every time he did his daddy, he's going to marry Rosa McLean, his daddy said, how about Ivy? He wanted to marry your mama.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let me see now. She married your father. Oh, and I was going to tell you about this big house. That was the white people's house then. And they had a pump. You know what a pump is.
Right.
And Papa was working this white man's farm. And so it was a big two-story house, too. And they all, in case Sam, the house and buggies then, no cars, Negroes didn't have any cars. Burns, the one that moved Papa, and the Marshes, my father-in-law, and Will Crutcher was the three first black Negroes owned a car. And my father-in-law asked the white man, could he buy a car?
Mm.
And he didn't have no education anyway. And so Mama locked up Kate's clothes, and Mama went to wash for somebody, and Kate came and pulled one drawer out and went down there and got her clothes. But she didn't get the hat, and they wore it out. And so I had something else in the stream. I kind of lost my thought there. Oh yeah, Kate's husband died, and Mama had to raise two sets of children, Kate's children and Nature's.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, so they drove all night trying to get married, horse and buggy, and finally they went to Lewisburg where nobody didn't know them and got married. But Mama heard that Mr. Bill Ferguson, he was this wealthy white man. And Papa was tending his farm and living in the white folks, what it was his white folks, but he had a big house in Chapel Hill. And so all the hands came to the pump to get water at 12 o'clock. And you know, Cornelia, Margaret's always talking about Mama being so quiet, easy, and Grandma this and Grandma that. I said, you didn't know Grandma like I did. And when Grandma got mad, all devils in hell couldn't hold her. And she couldn't. And listen, Mama heard this white man was the one swore that Kate was 18 or 17 years old. And that's the way they got the license. And when they all came to that well to drink water that day, Mama went out there and she got right up to him. The well was just right outside the house, platform up home. And she said to him, says, I heard that, let's see how she said it. She went out there and says, somebody had told her he swore she was older she had to be. So you get, she says, whoever swore my daughter was 18 years old swore a lie. He looked out and said, what'd you say, Aunt Hattie? Whoever swore she was 18 swore a lie. Papa was out there, and you know Andy Liggett.
Right.
Don't do nothing to his children. That white man turned around and walked off. Mama stuck her head right up in his face and told him, whoever swore a lie.
That was a little bit unusual for that day and time.
And that day and time.
Right.
Yes, it was. And I've had so many ups and downs, I got just like Mama. When I told Mama, y'all don't want to put all this down.
Go right here.
My husband was doing so bad. We were starving with these 5 children, and he's going a little girl, 14 years old, and had a baby by. And if my children hear this, they'd have a fit. And I talked to him for 5 years, begging him to stay at home and do right. The children see him Monday morning, wouldn't see him no more till Saturday evening. So.
Were you living in Nashville then?
No, we were living out in the country.
Out in the country. Now when you say country, Spring Hill, Columbia?
No,
Triune, Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. And so how I got down here?
Yeah, we were going to, we missed it. We said we was going to go back. You was going to tell me a little bit about when my mother and father got married. If you remember anything
yeah.
surrounding
You said
that.
about the Burns fellow wanted his son to marry.
Yeah, he wanted his son to marry her.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave my affairs out.
No, we'll come back to those too, but...
And so he married Rosie. See, Dad was a teacher, and he was one of those big shot Negroes. He didn't have nothing. I mean, when you had some stock of things. When we was coming up, you was big. Y'all burning up, we can go in there.
No, it's just fine. If you'd not too...
Well, he wanted him to marry Leal. And Hannah Leal married John. And then Hobart, he married a McLean girl. Her people was kind of well off too. And not saying mine was well off, but yeah, my sister was a teacher. And he wanted Hobart would marry her. And, oh yeah, he and the Morrises, John Morris and Will Crutcher, was the first one had automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had sidelines. You put them on. If y'all remember buggies, can you remember when the buggies had, no. You
Remember buggies, go ahead.
you put the, if it rained,
Oh.
you put the sides up and fasten them on the
Oh,
sides.
Yeah, we saw that the other day.
Well, that the first automobiles, and John Morris, my husband's father, he was the first Negro got an automobile. He was a big Negro, and then Will Crutcher bought one. And who I said was the third? Will Crutcher, John Morris, and John Burns.
I see.
And then my brothers, then they bought automobiles. And you know what? We started to Mount Vernon. And Papa would start, they'd be second-handed automobiles, And every time you have a flat, Papa would be in one car. If that car had a flat, he'd get out and start walking. And the next one come along, he'd flag that one down till he got to church. And they'd have to put these things on the sides. And you had to crank them.
Crank 'em, yes, I can remember that. Now, going back there, did Lee Ivor decide that John Jones, after that fella, she kind of was liking John Jones at that time too, wasn't she? Were they in school together? He lived on a farm near?
No, the Joneses was big Negroes then. And somehow or another, let me see now, it's been so long ago. She knew John before we moved to Marshall County. But I think she went back and met him at a picnic, these old picnics around the tree. And then he started coming to see her and horse and buggy. And she married him.
Oh, there was something right.
Did they marry in a church, or do you remember going to their wedding? You were just a youngster.
Let me see. She was teaching, and I don't remember just how to get married.
Now, sorry. Do you remember Etta Jones?
Yeah, I remember her. And she was a big, fat, bright lady. And your grandfather was B-L-A-C-K, black.
Well, yes, I remember his features, but I remember he was kind of short and very dark, with a little sink right
Always
there.
had one side and straight. He straightened.
Now, I remember him vaguely, but of course, I probably wasn't born. I think she
But I
died
can
before.
remember your grandmother. And she drove a horse and buggy. He had to find a horse and buggy. And she drove that. And she's a great light. And her parents, they lived across the creek from us, and I can remember their name. Oh, we call them Aunt so-and-so and Uncle so-and-so. What was their name? And then, do you know about your aunt, Carrie? She was a teacher, too. Your
My
aunt. Father's
sister, right.
And he had a sister named Minnie.
Right, I remember her.
And she left home.
Went to Florida.
Went
I know she
somewhere.
went. I know where she
When
went.
she was gone years, they didn't see her, know where she was. And you know about when they went down there?
To Jacksonville.
Your mother.
I remember vaguely about it. She was ill, or somebody was ill, or the person who was staying with. I think she and my mother and my father and Sam and
they
I
all went down there.
Right.
And she gave her property to the church. You
Seems like
remember that?
I heard something like that. I'm not really sure. Everything, the house and contents and whatever.
I don't know what denomination that was either.
Let's see. I heard it. 70 Advents, I believe.
It's something.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
hadn't run across Mama.
No, I don't think that's. I bet you're getting kind of tired. You want to hear?
No,
Let's
I'm
listen back.
doing pretty good. I'm not getting out of breath. Usually.
Is there something else that you remember that you would like to tell us?
About your family? Let me see. he had a sister named Minnie. That was Minnie.
That was Minnie, right.
Do you remember all of their uncles' names?
Carrie remembers them.
Uh-huh.
I think I have them from Carrie on that side of the family.
I think that's about all, and I'll think of something important.
Judy, did you think of anything?
Yeah, just want to add, what were some of the games? I'm sure youngsters had a few games that you played, like we used to have little rhymes, Mary Mac, dressed in black, did you
That's
ever?
right.
And hopscotch, and those little games
And the ball games.
was the main thing.
And that might have been...
Did you ever sing a song called Reuben, Reuben, Rachel, Rachel? Reuben, Reuben?
No.
Okay.
But when we were going to school to them, that's what all the games we had at school, jumping rope, hopscotch.
Scotch.
Mm-hmm. Scotch.
What was your dress generally like? Did the girls wear high-top shoes then?
Yes. And Mama knitted our stockings. I wore wool stockings. She'd spin this. They had the cards. And she'd have put on this reel, and they had it up there at this place. Mm-hmm. And you turn and crank it, and it would make a noise, and and I showed them one that was missing, didn't have that cup.
Oh, really?
And I told them what that was. That's where you pull the thread off. And your mama and my mama wore those knit stockings, hand knit, and Mama had a big ball that she dyed them with walnut hulls.
Oh, my word.
And Papa's sister ain't out, us had a red coat out there. And Mama put it in the kettle and tried to, I've got a white coat just like it now. And I've got a white spring coat. Let me show this.
Oh.
And you said you didn't get it. You have two dishes.
Two big meat
Platters, yes.
And
they
one of them
belong
is
to who?
worn down into the quick. And I poured molasses candy on them when I was a little girl.
Mm.
And you said out in the storage. What do you mean? Out here by the yard.
You want to see them?
No, that's okay. We'd love to see them, but we won't put you to that trouble.
I don't mind if you want to see them.
Yes,
One's got a
ma'am.
blue band, and one is worn down, and they were these,
Aunt and Uncle, these people who raised
it was
your
theirs.
mother, grandmother.
And Mama kept them, and I kept them. And then when Mama died, that's all I got was those dishes.
Mm.
And I knew there was open.
Mm.
I'll go, I think. Y'all don't
That's
have to go.
We've just gone to the storeroom and saw one of the most magnificent sight of our entire trip. Two plates that date at least 200 years old, and also a clock that's yet working that's well over 100 years. These are certainly prized possessions, and some that we can never, ever, ever realize until someday their particular value and know their historical meaning to all of us. Now you're going to tell us a little bit about some of the
Those
tools.
clocks, let me see. See, Uncle's been dead,
That's the clock.
75 years, I know. Uncle's been dead about, not quite 70. Yes, I remember him. And I'm 80.
So the clock is about 200 years
Yeah,
old, too?
about 200 years old.
Okay, I'm in error. Let me correct myself. The clock that we've just come up with has been determined to be at least 200 years old. Now, did you say
right.
you are 80 now?
I was 80 in May.
80 in May, and still going
See why
strong.
I'm getting about like I am.
No, you're doing marvelous. I hope that I'll be able to do half as well when I reach that point.
Well, it certainly seems like longevity. Now, I remember your mother when I first started dating Inez out in South Nashville when she lived on 4th
With my
Avenue.
sister.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and I remember being a small
Can
lady
you
sitting in that
remember Papa?
rocking chair.
I remember Palmer, but now I think he had passed at the time grandmother was living with Aunt Kate.
Yes, he had.
Because I think he
passed.
lived only a short time, because it seemed like when he left
He was
Lewisburg,
just 73 when he died.
right. But he did live a while with Aunt Kate, didn't he?
Yes, he was
Right.
living when he died first.
Right.
But Mama lived 8 years, let's see, Mama lived 8 years after Papa died. Now, how old would that be? Papa be? Mama was 83. Papa was 72.
Two, right.
Uh-huh. No, look.
No, okay.
Papa had a brother named Walter. I didn't get that in. Papa had a brother named Walter, and he was a watchmaker. Lived out here. Oh, can't think the name of this place I found in Nashville. And he had coal black curly hair. And he was Mayor Rochester's daddy. You remember Mayor Rochester?
Only the name.
Well, he was her daddy.
I see.
Papa had a brother named Walter. I forgot that.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I have hard another arteries, and I can't think. Papa had a brother named Walter and Albert. And there was the three boys.
Mm-hmm.
And this brother was named Walter. And Mama had a whole lot of these old enlarged pictures, and Kate told her she couldn't bring all that stuff there. So Mama took them out of a frame and brought them. And
Is this how you happen to have the picture of
Uh-huh.
Mom and Uncle?
yeah, that's how I happened to have the picture of that. Now Papa's brother, I don't know what became Uncle Walter's picture. Because, and these children are just like cake bars. They don't want nothing old. Mommy, you keep too much junk around.
Well, they don't realize until they get older themselves.
That's what I'm trying to tell them.
When they
they
get-
don't think I know how to take. I like to say
That's okay.
And they get on my nerves. Lord have mercy. Telling me, don't do this, don't do that, and you ought to do this, and you ought to do that.
I don't know how.
I don't feel like doing. That's it. I just don't feel. Now that rug's been taken up off of that floor, and you had to raise up that thing.
California, at the home that we live in now, at 4174, we had just moved,
That's
I believe,
right.
in
Wasn't through
August.
packing.
Right.
Yes,
I
and
came
We have some
Utah.
furniture in the living room now, so you have to come back to see it now.
I hope
'Cause
I live
think
to.
I think at the time you were there, we just had a couch.
Yeah, I wasn't hardly unpacked.
yes, we
Right.
had just moved September the 1st, 1970,
No, 1970.
67. Yes,
I
1967.
keep dates in my head.
That's correct, 1967, because Lewis was born in 66, and so it was 67. 1967,
Was it 67?
67, that's when it
You
was,
were the first relative to visit us.
at that home.
And I had and two more places I want to go before I die. I've been quite a bit. I've been more than Tom and them have. I told them all that. I traveled more than they had. I longed to go to Washington and Kentucky. I had two chances to go. I want to go to Washington and Mississippi before I die.
Now, why Mississippi?
Yes.
I just heard so much about it. Mississippi muddy waters.
And just want,
Raining again.
yes, just a little bit. Well, we
Yeah.
certainly
I've
thank.
been St. Louis, I've been down south, I've been to Boston. I've traveled a lot.
That's marvelous.
And I've been St. Louis, and I've been Georgia and Alabama.
California.
California.
Now, did you get to Hawaii? I believe that's where your son-in-law was stationed.
I was going to Hawaii, and I was getting ready to go. And Wilma told me that it wasn't a whole lot there to see. I think she just stalled me from coming. That's the reason I didn't get to Hawaii. But when I got to Boston, I've been to Boston.
Wonderful.
You know, Cornelia finished school in Boston.
Right,
And so Edward carried me down to the train, and I had my fur cape. And then they put me out and didn't give me time to get that cape, and he lit out. And when I don't know where I got to when I got off the plane and called him and told him to take my fur cape out of there. Now, I had a hard time raising my children, but since they got up, I have traveled. Been
That's
many
wonderful.
places. I've been to Boston, St. Louis, California, down south, and that's where Wilma is now. I was depending on her to take y'all. We'd go for dinner.
This has been the best feast ever.
Right, now maybe the place you're talking about uptown in Nashville, you think you'd like to go there tomorrow? We could take you there tomorrow and take you out for lunch.
No, unless y'all want to see it. Y'all want to see it?
Well,
We
if
would
you-
like to see it,
I'll
but
go with you.
we don't want to push you.
No, I feel like it. I'll go
Okay,
with it.
and
And
we'll
we'll see
take you
some
to
of
lunch.
it. We don't see it all.
We'll take you to lunch.
And they've got a floor there that
He's so
let,
talkative.
I don't eat that much.
Well, that's all
We
right.
just
enjoy
can't
it.
eat.
We just enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
I'll eat your share.
Okay. Wilma, Sunday morning, she got up at 6 o'clock. I talked to her Sunday night. She went and met her sister-in-law, Bob's sister, her husband named Bob. And they drove to Atlanta. and Cornelia was there, and they called Cornelia used.
Okay, today is Tuesday, July 28th, 1984. We're again with Miss Lorena Stuart, who's going to give us a little bit more information that she thought about from the time we left her yesterday. Here we go again.
All right. He had what you call a saga mill. It was two great big iron things together.
This is Grandpa Andy.
Uh-huh, and his name's Andrew, but he's been called Andy all his life. And he made molasses. And this had a big long pole on it, and the horses would just go round and around and around, and that juice would come out.
Correct myself, I said 1984, it's 1981. Okay, Miss Stewart, would you continue?
And so he made molasses. When you get this juice, he had a furnace built, and a pan, always about 8 foot long and about 3 foot wide, and it had petitions in it. He put this juice in it. First, I should have told you to raise this sorghum, and then he stripped it, the cane, and this was a cane he put through this mill on a wagon. The horses would go round and round. All right, he'd get barrels of that. And then he'd make molasses. And I know you've eaten molasses.
Right, well, you know, when I was a child, my dad had that for a while, too.
And he took these molasses and he'd run it over in big barrels, put your stop in it. And that's what we'd carry to school on our biscuit and butter and molasses. Sometime in a flat bucket, they call it, with a top on it. And he would make our, did I tell you, he would half-sole our shoes?
No.
He would half-sole our shoes, and he wore what they call brogans. That was a very stiff shoe. Your grandfather wore them, too. And they had pegs, and he half-soled his shoe with pegs. He half-soled all the family shoes. We got 2 pair of shoes a year, one for Sunday, one for every day. The other day we went barefoot. And your mama taught school at Chapel Hill. And I rode behind her on the horse, old Bess we call her. Mama had a horse, was pacing mare. That's what ladies rode. She rode old Bess. Papa had a big sorrel horse. His name was Charlie. He didn't let the boys ride old Charlie or do anything. And then the boys, they would ride the mule when they were young. Then when they got older, they had horses to ride. They'd take the girlfriends behind them on the horse. And when I went to school to your mama at Chapel Hill, we crossed that one street and went up to this schoolhouse. That's where she taught. And I'd ride behind her on this old Bess. That was Mama's pacing mare. On a side saddle. You throw your leg over there, and then ladies wore dusters to keep yourself clean. And
Is a duster kind of like a blanket?
no, it's like a long robe.
Oh, I see.
Sleeves and everything, and that would hide the leg when they threw it over the stirrup on the side saddle. Mama had that. And I used to ride behind Mama on this mare to go to the grocery. They didn't go to the grocery for nothing but sugar and coffee and coal oil. They raised everything to eat. And your sister rode this mare. All right, as she taught 2 years, Papa told her she had enough money to save to buy her a buggy. She brought her. The buggy was a great big automobile back buggy. And so 5 of us could get in it, 3 in front and 2 behind. Those behind sitting in the back and the feet hanging down. We went to school that way. And, she thought she was someone when she got this automobile back buggy.
This was my mother.
That's your mother. And you know what? It was rubber tied. The buggies we had before then was steel tied. And sometime that rubber tie would run off. Papa would take it to his blacksmith shop and put it on. And when we had the steel tie buggy, and It'd get dry, you know, and the wheels would sink and the tire would run off. And Papa would, and my sister would get out and get a piece of wire or something to get home to wire it on. And Papa would put it in the pond at night to swell it up
Yeah.
so he could get this tire back on.
Ah.
And so, let me see if that's all about that. But I told you she was going to be a wall of old mama.
Right.
Yes, which was in South Nashville.
Yeah.
Right. We have that.
And one of her friends is still living. And she met her when she moved up here.
Do you remember her name or where she lives?
She lives on Jefferson. And she's still here. Let me see if that's all I know about her. Something else I thought of last night. And she made $35 a month. And when she voted, she paid $3 a month. Sometimes Willie would get cold and bad, and she would vote, and she paid $3 a month voting.
Oh, now,
Eating and sleeping.
sleeping, $3 a month.
$3 a month, and she made $35 a month teaching. And this old lady belongs at my church. She's 97 years old. She taught, and when she taught, she just made $25. And
How far was Chapel Hill from your home where Miss Jones taught?
7 miles. 7 miles.
7 miles, yes. That would be quite a distance in those days to travel
Yeah.
buggy.
And when we went to school to Cedar Hill, to your mama's sister, she was going to, she voted most of the time. And sometimes when she went from home and we'd get down to the place we had to turn off to go home, that's where your grandmother lived. And the creek would get up, and we'd have to wait there sometime until dark. And we would walk to that school sometime, and that was further than Chapel Hill. And when they were in this university, I told you that yesterday, that the girls couldn't dress like they do now going to college. Everybody had to wear a skirt and a blouse, and they had UV on the sleeve. They wore that the summer around. I mean, year round. You just had to. And I'll tell you some more about Papa. This brother, he lived in Dixon, Tennessee. And he was like just like Papa, with cold black curly hair. And he was a watchman. And I don't know too much about him. William Roston.
I've heard that name a lot, but I've never really
Well,
got to
he
know.
married this man's daughter. Her Aunt Lisa, Aunt Ida Lisa. And he married her. They were both dead. What else did I think about last night?
While you're thinking, the picture that you have of your aunt and uncle that you showed us, where did you get the picture
You
from?
didn't have to get
Mama?
Your mother gave it to you.
Oh, I
Did I show you?
Yes,
Yeah, you showed us the
And
picture.
Ida and Aunt Alice and all them?
Yes.
Did I find them?
it. No, you
No, I
showed me
don't.
aunt and uncle.
Yeah, let me show you.
You kept like somebody that's related to me. And I says, well, we just kept talking around and around and around. So he asked me, said, did you ever go to a Jim Johnson picnic?
Right. I went to it
But
27 years before I missed 31.
But he never did, get in a connection of anybody that I knew or anybody that he knew. Because I think didn't he say that he was about 30-something years old? He's a fairly young person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a policeman here now.
And it just sort of struck me as being funny, because that was such a long time ago. And because I was very small when we used to go to Jim Johnson picnic.
Yeah. Well, I went to that's Papa's sister Alice. These are her brothers, and one is 87 years old now. He and I are the oldest ones living.
This is the lady that told her these things about about
Her
Grandpa
relative.
Andy.
Yes.
And that's Carl.
I've heard a lot about Carl, but never did meet him.
And I'd like to take y'all down there if you wanted to. We had time before you leave.
Okay, now, this is Edward.
Mm-hmm.
This would be probably just a friend.
Yeah. Now that's Uncle Sam, Mama's brother.
Yeah.
That's his wife. She's real white. I never heard about her pattern. See, Mama and them didn't tell us, but now people tell children these
Children,
different
yes.
things.
I don't know.
That's Uncle Sam's wife. Uncle Sam, B-L-A-C-K Black. And Mama always called her.
Not Sam Liggett.
No, Mama's brother.
Oh, okay, okay. This is farther back than I know.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
that's Mama's brother.
Oh, okay. I see.
And that's his wife, so she real light, and that's his daughter. That's a friend, and that's Buzz.
I
And
see.
that's, he's got a child, and that's Bugle. They didn't have the 3 children. And they all dead. And they all died before the mother did.
Well, this really dates back.
You can see it's old.
Yes.
Now guess who's?
Have no idea.
That's Sammy Lou. That's Sister Jenny's oldest child. That's who, Andra, he's dead. That's Walter, he's dead.
Now,
He was
Walter,
supposed to drown it himself. And this is, let's see. See these big bloomers they have on? Let me see. Which one? John A. That's the fat one.
I see.
He's, those are Sister Jenny's children.
I see. Okay, look like this. Keep watch on time.
Here's Aunt Della when she's a young lady, and this is the house.
I just remember the name. I didn't meet her either.
That was Uncle Sam's wife. And Mama always called Sister Della, and they were just like sisters. They close.
That was like familiar, isn't it?
That's me.
Oh. Well, you do look very much like Cornelia right there in that picture.
I never did think Cornelia followed me. This is who? Let's see. Who's this one?
Well, this must be you too.
That's me.
Okay.
Yes.
Kate. I
Is
was just trying
that
to see
for
if y'all would
heaven's
know.
sake? Well,
And
we
I
don't have our glasses on either. So that's not
and I have a
Yeah.
picture.
Look at that hair.
I don't see
Yeah.
it just like that. And I just know some of them took it out. I just damned to take a picture out.
Now, this is you here.
And that's when I first came to Nashville. Hit Nashville with 50 cents.
Who is this?
That's a friend of mine out in the country. And this
This
is
would be
Papa's
Kate.
sister Georgie.
Oh.
Georgie. She was the youngest one. She died.
Very
She never was
attractive.
his youngest sister. That's Uncle Sam there with one of the children, pen type.
You know, they're about faded out.
You know that one?
That's not
That's my oldest brother, David.
Dave. I think you remember me.
Dave
not-
Hugh.
Right. You probably was a caretaker. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, no, yes, at the cemetery there,
Right,
yes.
That's who that is.
Now, see, Mama never did have her picture. Aunt Lula lived near town, I guess, the reason she had her mama's picture. God's got it now. I didn't know we had one. That's for you to see. This is Uncle Sam. He worked at Versus Bureau all the years, and they didn't have trucks then. That's the milk truck. He delivered milk.
Yeah.
He delivered milk. That's Mama's brother, and he worked, and that's at home on Vernon Street, right around from that reservoir. And you know that reservoir bursted one night and knocked people out of their houses and all, and he never got out.
It's amazing that you can remember all these things.
I
The names
remember
of the
where
streets names of the horses.
that I can't remember yesterday. That's
The
true.
leaves had a lot of
See, I've
meaning.
got heart in the arteries.
Who is this?
That's
Looks
Joe
like
Lewis.
No, right here. No, right here. Is that a Mars?
No, that's one of these children's friends out in the country. I know his name, but I can't call it.
I recognize it.
You know this?
This looks like a fellow that Mitchell.
That's Thomas husband.
JW, it's been so long since I have seen him, you know. Yeah, right. Now that you said it, I
Honey,
can
this
see it.
big. You ought to
Right.
see it.
I guess it's been years and years. I guess, you know, like when I
Yeah, I
first...
know. And I forget you, the youngest. You don't remember as much as Karen and
Right.
Christine. And then I don't think
Is this Aunt Kate or is this...
Aunt Della.
Well, I know her.
And Mama called her Sister Della, and they're just like blood sisters. And
This
that's
is you,
me.
right?
Is that you?
Uh-huh. That's Cousin Susie down on their daddy's side.
So this is you?
That's me.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
I can
Yeah.
see the features up here.
Yeah.
This is Uncle Dave here.
And that's his girlfriend.
I see.
And see if you can tell who these are.
I would say that that's Tommy and Wilma. Margaret? No.
That's Margaret.
And Margaret.
Y'all was leaving when she got hit. She saw your car.
Is that right?
She came right
yesterday.
on from work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, still had on a uniform.
You said this is Anna Margaret.
And she's a nurse out here at Metro Park. And that's Wilma. And they
Okay.
on the street uptown. That's it.
This is and Kate's children by the first marriage.
Okay, so this is Mr. and Mrs. Liggett,
Right.
and these
Their
are Aunt's
grandchildren.
grandchildren.
That was the
Those
father
are Aunt
died.
Kate's children.
And what was the boy's name? Do you remember his name? What was the son's name?
That's
This is Hattie Lee, and what was I can't-
Robert.
Robert.
They're her grandchildren.
Right.
These are Kate's children. See,
Right.
when her first husband died, Mama had to raise him. Mama had raised 2 sets of children, grandchildren.
Oh well, this is priceless. I thank you very, very much.
Okay.
Okay.